God has engraved me on the palms of his hands. Isaiah 49:16. I am always before him. The Lord remembers me and will bless me. Genesis 8:1. His timing is perfect. I am not forgotten. God knows every detail of my life. Matthew 10:30. The Lord's plans for me are good, and he will fulfill them. Jeremiah 29:11. Even in my waiting, God is working. Psalm 37:7. I am not overlooked. The Lord hears my cries and remembers his promises to me. Exodus 2:24-25. I am seen by God, just as Hagar was seen in the wilderness. Genesis 16:13. God has not forgotten my labor of love. Hebrews 6:10. My work matters to him. The Lord remembers my tears and collects them in his bottle. Psalm 56:8. I am chosen and cherished by God. 1 Peter 2:9. He will never forget me. My prayers are before the Lord, and he answers in his perfect time. Revelation 8:3-4. God remembers his covenant with me. Psalm 105:8. His word is unchanging. I am held in God's heart. He will never abandon me. Deuteronomy 31:6. The Lord remembers my faithfulness and rewards me openly. Matthew 6:4. Even if others forget me, God never will. Isaiah 49:15. My name is written in heaven. I am never forgotten. Luke 10:20. God remembers my struggles and will turn them into strength. 2 Corinthians 12:9. The Lord remembers my past, redeems my present, and secures my future. Isaiah 43:18-19. I am not overlooked. God is preparing my breakthrough. Habakkuk 2:3. The Lord remembers my sacrifices and honors them. Mark 10:29-30. God remembers my needs and provides for me. Philippians 4:19. I am never alone. The Lord is always with me. Joshua 1:9. The Lord remembers my heart's desires and fulfills them in his way. Psalm 37:4. God has not forgotten my pain. He heals and restores. Psalm 147:3. I am remembered by God, just as he remembered Noah. Genesis 8:1. The Lord remembers my faith and counts it as righteousness. Romans 4:3. God's thoughts toward me are countless. Psalm 139:17-18. I am always on his mind. I am not forsaken. The Lord remembers me in love. Lamentations 3:22-23. The Lord remembers my seeds of kindness and multiplies them. Galatians 6:9. God remembers my name and calls me his own. John 10:3. I am hidden in Christ. God will never lose sight of me. Colossians 3:3. The Lord remembers my obedience and blesses me. Deuteronomy 28:1-2. God remembers my prayers and answers in his perfect way. 1 John 5:14-15. I am not a mistake. God knew me before I was born. Jeremiah 1:5. The Lord remembers my tears and turns them into joy. Psalm 126:5. God has not forgotten my dreams. He planted them in my heart. Ephesians 3:20. I am remembered by God, just as he remembered Hannah. 1 Samuel 1:19. The Lord remembers my faithfulness in little and entrusts me with more. Luke 16:10. God remembers my struggles and will lift me up. Psalm 42. I am not abandoned. The Lord remembers his promises to me. Numbers 23:19. The Lord remembers my worship and dwells in my praise. Psalm 22:3. God remembers my past and uses it for his glory. Romans 8:28. I am not invisible. God sees me and knows me. Psalm 139:1. The Lord remembers my faithfulness in trials and rewards me. James 1:12. God remembers my heart's cry and moves on my behalf. Exodus 3:7. I am not forgotten. My story is still being written. Psalm 138:8. The Lord remembers my place in his family. Ephesians 2:19. I belong. God remembers my hope in him and will not disappoint. Romans 5:5. I am remembered by God just as he remembered Rachel. Genesis 30:22. The Lord remembers my destiny and will bring it to pass. Philippians 1:6. The Lord remembers me in my lowly state, for his mercy endures forever. Psalm 136:23. God has not forgotten my prayers. He answers at the appointed time. Daniel 10:12. I am kept in God's memory, and he will fulfill his purpose for me. Psalm 138:8. The Lord remembers my steps and directs my path. Proverbs 16:9. I am not overlooked. God is aligning everything for my good. Romans 8:28. The Lord remembers my faithfulness and rewards me openly. Hebrews 11:6. God has not forgotten my past. He redeems it for his glory. Joel 2:25. I am remembered by God, just as he remembered Abraham. Genesis 19:29. The Lord remembers my tears and will turn my mourning into joy. Psalm 35. God knows my name and has written me in his book. Psalm 139:16. I am not forsaken. The Lord remembers his covenant with me. Leviticus 26:42. The Lord remembers my heart's desires and satisfies them. Psalm 145:16. God has not forgotten my struggles. He is my strength. Isaiah 41:10. I am held in God's hands, and he will never let me go. John 10:28. The Lord remembers my obedience and blesses my household. Acts 16:31. God remembers my faithfulness in secret and rewards me openly. Matthew 6. I am not forgotten. God's plans for me are unfolding. Proverbs 19:21. The Lord remembers my labor in love and honors it. 1 Thessalonians 3. God has not forgotten my seeds of faith. They will produce a harvest. Galatians 6:9. I am remembered by God, just as he remembered Joseph in prison. Genesis 41:14. The Lord remembers my sacrifices and repays me 100-fold. Mark 10:29-30. God knows my needs before I ask, and he provides. Matthew 6:8. I am not abandoned. The Lord remembers me in my distress. Psalm 9:12. The Lord remembers my worship and draws near to me. James 4:8. God has not forgotten my dreams. He is working behind the scenes. Ephesians 3:20. I am seen by God, just as he saw the Israelites in bondage. Exodus 3:7. The Lord remembers my faithfulness in trials and crowns me. James 1:12. God remembers my place in his kingdom. I am his heir. Romans 8. 17. I am not forgotten. The Lord remembers my every step. Psalm 37:23. The Lord remembers my voice when I call to him. Psalm 116, 1-2. God has not forgotten my hope. He will fulfill it. Romans 15:13. I am held in God's thoughts. He has plans to prosper me. Jeremiah 29:11. The Lord remembers my faithfulness and establishes my work. Psalm 90:17. God remembers my heart's cry and answers me. Psalm 34:17. I am not overlooked. The Lord is preparing my table. Psalm 23:5. The Lord remembers my suffering and will turn it into glory. 1 Peter 5:10. God has not forgotten my name. He calls me his own. Isaiah 43:1. I am remembered by God, just as he remembered David in the wilderness. 1 Samuel 16:11-13. The Lord remembers my faith and moves mountains for me. Matthew 17:20. God knows my end from the beginning. He has not forgotten me. Isaiah 46:10. I am not forsaken. The Lord remembers my prayers. 1 John 5:15. The Lord remembers my worship and inhabits my praise. Psalm 22:3. God has not forgotten my past. He uses it for my future. Genesis 50:20. I am seen by God, just as he saw the widow's offering. Mark 12:43. The Lord remembers my faithfulness and will exalt me in due time. 1 Peter 5:6. God remembers my place in his family. I am his child. 1 John 3:1. I am not forgotten. The Lord remembers my destiny. Psalm 57:2. The Lord remembers my struggles and delivers me. Psalm 34:19. God has not forgotten my labor. He rewards me. Revelation 22:12. I am forever in God's heart. He will never forget me. Isaiah 49:15-16. The Lord who numbers the hairs on my head will never forget me. Luke 12:7. As God remembered Rachel and opened her womb, he remembers my deepest longings. Genesis 30:22. The Lord remembers my ways and will crown my obedience with blessing. Revelation 2:19. Just as God remembered his promise to Abraham, he remembers his word over my life. Genesis 21:1. I am not forgotten in my waiting. The Lord's timing is perfect. Ecclesiastes 3:11. God remembers my hidden tears and will turn them into shouts of joy. Psalm 126:5. The Lord remembers my small beginnings and will bring me to completion. Zechariah 4:10. As God remembered Noah in the ark, he remembers me in my season of waiting. Genesis 8:1. I am not overlooked. God remembers me in my lonely places. 1 Kings 19:18. The Lord remembers my past faithfulness and will reward it. Hebrews 6:10. As God remembered Hannah's prayer, he remembers my petitions. 1 Samuel 1:19. I am not forgotten in my struggles. God remembers and will deliver me. Psalm 34:19. The Lord remembers my sacrifices and will repay them. Mark 10:29-30. God remembers my name and has written it in his book of life. Luke 10:20. I am not abandoned. The Lord remembers me in my affliction. Lamentations 3:31-33. As God remembered his covenant with David, he remembers his promises to me. Psalm 89:34. The Lord remembers my heart's cry even when I cannot speak. Romans 8:26. I am not forgotten in my weakness. God remembers and strengthens me. 2 Corinthians 12:9. The Lord remembers my seeds of faith and will bring the harvest. Galatians 6:9. As God remembered Joseph in prison, he remembers me in my confinement. Genesis 41:14. I am not overlooked. God remembers my hidden potential. Judges 6:12. The Lord remembers my acts of kindness and will multiply them. Matthew 10:42. God remembers my place in his family. I am his beloved child. 1 John 3:1. I am not forgotten in my confusion. God remembers and will guide me. Proverbs 3:5-6. The Lord remembers my spiritual hunger and will satisfy me. Matthew 5:6. As God remembered Elijah in the wilderness, he remembers me in my desert season. 1 Kings 19:5. I am not abandoned. God remembers me in my financial need. Philippians 4:19. The Lord remembers my spiritual warfare and will give me victory. 2 Corinthians 10:4. God remembers my intercession for others and will answer. Job 42:10. I am not forgotten in my grief. The Lord remembers and comforts me. Matthew 5:4. As God remembered the thief on the cross, he remembers my repentance. Luke 23:42-43. God remembers my ministry and will anoint it. Acts 10:38. I am not overlooked. The Lord remembers my spiritual gifts. Romans chapters 11-29. The Lord remembers my spiritual battles and fights for me. Exodus 14:14. As God remembered the widow's oil, he remembers my resources. 2 Kings 4:1-7. I am not forgotten in my health struggles. God remembers and heals. Psalm 103:3. The Lord remembers my family and will save them. Acts 16:31. God remembers my dreams and will fulfill his purpose. Psalm 20:4. I am not abandoned in my singleness. The Lord remembers me. Psalm 68:6. As God remembered the barren woman, he remembers my fruitfulness. Psalm 113:9. The Lord remembers my career path and will prosper me. Deuteronomy 28:12. God remembers my education and will give me wisdom. James chapter 1:5. I am not forgotten in my parenting. The Lord remembers my children. Isaiah 54:13. The Lord remembers my marriage and will bless it. Hebrews 13:4. As God remembered the disciples' mission, He remembers my calling. Matthew 28:20. I am not overlooked. The Lord remembers my legacy. Proverbs 13:22. God remembers my entire life story and will perfect it. Psalm 138:8. The Lord who counts the stars calls me by name. I am unforgettable to Him. Psalm 147:4. Isaiah 43:1. As God remembered Ruth's faithfulness, He remembers every act of my obedience. Ruth 2:12. My tears are stored in heaven's bottle. God remembers each one. Psalm 56:8. The Lord who remembered Esther for such a time remembers my divine purpose. Esther 4:14. I am written on God's palms, permanently remembered. Isaiah 49:16. As God remembered the Israelites' slavery, He remembers my struggles. Exodus 2:24. My prayers rise as memorial before God. None are forgotten. Revelation 8:3-4. The Lord who fed Elijah remembers my daily needs. 1 Kings 17:4. I am remembered in heaven's courts. Angels know my name. Luke 15:10. As God remembered the thief's repentance, He remembers my changed heart. Luke 23:42-43. My labor in the Lord is never forgotten. Eternal rewards await. 1 Corinthians 15:58. The God who remembered barren Elizabeth remembers my impossible situations. Luke 1:13. I am tattooed on Christ's heart. Always remembered. Song of Solomon 8:6. As God remembered the widow's mite, He remembers my small offerings. Mark 12:43. My spiritual hunger is remembered. I will be filled. Matthew 5:6. The Lord who remembered Daniel in the lion's den remembers me in danger. Daniel 6:22. I am not lost in the crowd. My shepherd knows me. John 10:27. As God remembered the prodigal son, He remembers my return home. Luke 15:20. My hidden sufferings are remembered. Redemption is coming. Romans 8:18. The Lord who remembered the dying criminal remembers my last-minute prayers. Luke 23:42-43. I am remembered in the Father's house, a place prepared for me. John 14:2. As God remembered the woman with the issue of blood, He remembers my long-term battles. Mark 5:34. My spiritual warfare is remembered. Victory is assured. 2 Corinthians 10:4. The Lord who remembered Gideon's weakness remembers my inadequacies. Judges 6:15-16. I am not forgotten in my waiting. Divine timing is perfect. Habakkuk 2:3. As God remembered the Syrophoenician woman's faith, He remembers my persistence. Matthew 15:28. My generational prayers are remembered. Blessings are released. Exodus 26. The Lord who remembered the paralytic remembers my deepest need. Mark 2:5. I am remembered in heaven's records. My name cannot be erased. Revelation 3:5. As God remembered the widow's oil, He remembers my limited resources. 2 Kings 4:1-7. My spiritual seeds are remembered. A harvest is coming. Galatians chapter 6:9. The Lord who remembered the blind man remembers my need for revelation. John 1:1-7. I am not forgotten in my loneliness. God is my companion. Psalm 68:6. As God remembered the demon-possessed man, He remembers my freedom. Mark 5:19. My hidden talents are remembered. Divine opportunities await. Matthew 25:21. The Lord who remembered the lepers remembers my need for cleansing. Luke 17:14. As God remembered the Samaritan woman, He remembers my past and redeems it. John chapter 4, 7 to 26. My midnight prayers are remembered. Answers are coming. Acts 16, 25 to 26. I am not forgotten in my failures. God remembers his mercy. Lamentations 22 to 23. As God remembered the Ethiopian eunuch, he remembers my spiritual hunger. Acts 8, 26 to 40. My spiritual inheritance is remembered. Blessings are preserved. 1 Peter chapter 1, chapter 4. The Lord who remembered Cornelius' prayers remembers my seeking heart. Acts chapter 10, 4. I am remembered in the divine council. Heaven fights for me. 1 Kings 22, 19 to 22. As God remembered the Macedonian call, he remembers my divine assignments. Acts 16 to 9. My secret fasts are remembered. Rewards await. Matthew 6:18. The Lord who remembered the Philippian jailer remembers my household. Acts 16:31. I am not forgotten in my aging. God remembers my fruitful seasons. Psalm 92:14. As God remembered the church's first love, he remembers my spiritual passion. Revelation 2, 4 to 5. Before I was born, God knew me and set me apart. Jeremiah 1:5. I am eternally remembered. Like the sparrow God watches over, his eye is always upon me. Matthew chapter 10, 29 to 31. The Lord who numbers my days remembers each one. Psalm 139, 16. As God remembered Noah with a rainbow, he remembers me with covenant promises. Genesis 9:16. I am carved into the palms of God's hands, permanently remembered. Isaiah 49:15 to 16. The Lord who remembered Hannah remembers my unmet desires. 1 Samuel chapter 1:19. As God remembered Joseph's dreams, he remembers the visions he gave me. Genesis 37, 5 to 11. The Lord who saw Hagar in the desert sees me in my wilderness. Genesis 16:13. I am not lost in the crowd. My shepherd calls me by name. John chapter 10, 3. God remembers my tears and will turn them into springs of joy. Psalm 126, 5. As the Lord remembered David in the sheepfold, he remembers my humble beginnings. 1 Samuel 16, 11. My prayers rise as sweet incense before God's throne. Never forgotten. Revelation 5, 8. The Lord who remembered Elijah by the brook remembers me in drought. 1 Kings 17, 4. I am remembered in heaven's courts. Angels rejoice over me. Luke 15:10. As God remembered the widow's oil, he remembers my limited resources. 2 Kings 4, 1 to 7. My hidden acts of kindness are recorded in heaven. Matthew 6, chapter 4. The Lord who remembered Daniel's faithfulness remembers my integrity. Daniel 6:22. I am not forgotten in my waiting. God's timing is perfect. Ecclesiastes 3:11. As God remembered the thief on the cross, he remembers my repentance. Luke 23:42 to 43. The Lord who remembered Rahab's faith remembers my courageous choices. Joshua 6:25. My spiritual hunger is remembered. I will be filled. Matthew chapter 5, 6. As God remembered the Israelites groaning, he hears my deepest sighs. Exodus chapter 2:24. I am remembered in my weakness. Christ's power is perfected in me. 2 Corinthians 12:9. The Lord who remembered the Syrophoenician woman's faith honors my persistence. Mark 7:29. My seeds of faith are remembered. A harvest is coming. Galatians chapter 6:9. As God remembered the lame man at Bethesda, he remembers my healing. John chapter 5:6. I am not forgotten in my loneliness. God is my constant companion. Hebrews 13:5. The Lord who remembered the Macedonian call remembers my divine assignments. Acts 16:9. As God remembered the prodigal son, he celebrates my return. Luke 15:20. My spiritual warfare is remembered. Victory is assured. 1 Corinthians 15:57. The Lord who remembered the widow's mite values my small offerings. Mark 12:43. I am remembered in my confusion. God will direct my path. Proverbs 3 to 5 to 6. My hidden talents are remembered. Divine opportunities await. Matthew 25:21. The Lord who remembered the lepers remembers my need for cleansing. Luke 17:14. I am not forgotten in my failures. God's mercies are new every morning. Lamentations 3:22-23. As God remembered the Ethiopian eunuch, He remembers my spiritual hunger. Acts 8:29. My midnight prayers are remembered. Breakthrough is coming. Acts 16:25-26. I am remembered in my grief. God collects every tear. Psalm 56:8. As God remembered Cornelius' prayers, He remembers my seeking heart. Acts 10:4. My spiritual inheritance is remembered. Eternal treasures await. 1 Peter 1:4. I am not forgotten in my aging. God promises fruitful seasons. Psalm 92:14. As God remembered the church's first love, He remembers my spiritual passion. Revelation 2:4. My secret fasts are remembered. Rewards await. Matthew 6:18. The Lord who remembered the Macedonian call remembers my divine assignments. Acts 16:9. I am remembered in the divine council. Heaven fights for me. Daniel 10:12-13. As God remembered His promises to Abraham, He remembers every word spoken over me. Genesis 21:1. The God who named the stars knows my name. I am unforgettable to Him. Isaiah 40:26. As God remembered Noah with a rainbow, He remembers me with covenant love. Genesis 9:15-16. My life story is written in God's book. Every chapter matters. Psalm 139:16. The Lord who remembered Hannah's tears remembers my secret sorrows. 1 Samuel 1:17-20. As God remembered Joseph in prison, He remembers me in confinement. Genesis 39:21. My prayers are golden bowls of remembrance before God's throne. Revelation 5:8. The Lord who fed Elijah by ravens remembers my daily needs. 1 Kings 17:6. I am not a number in a crowd. I'm a named child of God. John 1:12. As God remembered the thief's last request, He remembers my repentant heart. Luke 23:42-43. The God who remembered Sarah remembers my impossible situations. Genesis 21:1. I am engraved on Christ's heart, always on His mind. Song of Solomon 8:6. As God remembered the widow's 2 coins, He remembers my small offerings. Luke 21:3. My spiritual hunger is recorded. I will be satisfied. Psalm 107:9. The Lord who remembered Daniel remembers me in the lion's den. Daniel 6:22. I am not lost. My good shepherd tracks my every step. Psalm 23:1-3. As God remembered the prodigal's return, He celebrates my coming home. Luke 15:20. My hidden pain is remembered. Redemption is underway. Psalm 34:18. I have a reserved place in my Father's house. John 14:2. As God remembered the woman with the issue of blood, He remembers my long-term battles. Mark 5:34. My spiritual warfare is noted. Victory is guaranteed. Romans 8:37. The Lord who remembered Gideon's weakness remembers my inadequacies. Judges 6:15-16. I am not forgotten in waiting. Divine timing is perfect. Psalm 27:14. As God remembered the Canaanite woman's faith, He honors my persistence. Matthew 15:28. My generational prayers are archived. Blessings are coming. Exodus 20:6. The Lord who remembered the paralytic remembers my deepest need. Mark 2:5. As God remembered the widow's oil, He multiplies my meager resources. 2 Kings 4:1-7. My planted seeds are remembered. Harvest time is coming. Psalm 126:6. The Lord who remembered blind Bartimaeus remembers my need for vision. Mark 10:51-52. I am not forgotten in loneliness. God is my constant companion. Psalm 68:6. As God remembered the demonized man, He remembers my freedom. Mark 5:19. My hidden gifts are remembered. Divine appointments await. 1 Peter 4:10. The Lord who remembered the lepers remembers my need for cleansing. Luke 17:14. As God remembered the Samaritan woman, He redeems my past. John 4:7-26. My midnight cries are remembered. Deliverance is coming. Acts 16:25-26. I am not forgotten in failure. God remembers his mercy. Psalm 103:14. As God remembered the Ethiopian seeker, he remembers my spiritual hunger. Acts 8:29. My spiritual inheritance is preserved. Blessings are stored. Colossians chapter 3:24. The Lord who remembered Cornelius remembers my sincere seeking. Acts chapter 10:4. I am remembered in divine strategy. Heaven fights for me. 2 Kings 6:16. My secret fasts are remembered. Rewards await. Matthew 6:18. The Lord who remembered the jailer remembers my household. Acts 16:31. I am not forgotten in aging. God promises continued fruitfulness. Psalm 92:14. As God remembered his promises to Abraham, he remembers every word over me. Joshua 21:45.
The same God who remembered biblical heroes is remembering you today. Your life, prayers, tears, and faithfulness are all recorded in heaven. You are eternally significant to the Creator of the universe. Psalm 139:17-18.